Hi, and welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to talk about the L.E. Modesitt Jr. Book Archform Beauty, which is book one of two in the Archform series. But before we get into it, again, as usual, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos come on out. Leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys, and I always respond back. And spread the word. It's free for you to do, and it helps me out a lot. Um, the interesting thing with this book is one, it takes place 400 years in the future. So obviously, there's a lot of technological advances that are here, such as like privacy screens and screens that can protect you. Um, and much of the country is sort of laid out, but things are different. There's no like North America. It's now NORAM. Denver is considered Denv. Um, Atlanta is just Lanta. Portland is Portland, no D. Um, so there's a lot of things that are shortened in this book. There's also a kind of like music and vocal style that they call resonance. And with that, it's created genres called res pop and res rap. This is supposed to be for like people who really can't sing, who can't do anything. It makes them sound better, and it appeals. It makes them appeal to the audience. The audience accepts them, or it has like a psychological and a physiological effect on the body and the brain, and it becomes the new thing. And this it's a main thing really for one of the characters. There's five of them actually in this book, and all five characters, when it gets to a chapter about them, are all narrations. Um, so the first character that we come across is Cornette. She's a music teacher at University of Denver. She appreciates most the art music and the classical music, and hates all the res stuff. But the res stuff is what is becoming popular. It's what the students are going for. So the budget keeps getting slashed and slashed and slashed to the point where her music appreciation class is going to get cut. And she's going to basically be teaching a course on resonance, which she doesn't want to do, but she needs to pay the bills somehow. And that will bring the credits in. Um, the second character that we come across is Chiang, who is a DPS detective, or actually more like a lieutenant, I guess. But he's sort of an old guy, plays by the rule, plays by the book, um, detective, basically. And there are a lot of things that he's going to have to solve in this. And there are what they call ODs, which they can't really find what's causing the OD. There's a drug called soup, but you can't really OD on it. And even if you have what they call alky, which is the cheap form of alcohol, even if you have soup in your system, it doesn't really work. But most of these suicides happen from people that attended res concerts. So there's some kind of a link there, and they're trying to figure out what. And even 400 years from now, the CDC still exists. So they send this res equipment out to them and they say, try to find what you can. We're looking for any link, really. We need to find something here because we don't know. We don't have any idea of what's causing these overdoses. There's also other accidents that happen that are more murders, that of what they call filch people, which are rich, filthy rich. There's a lot of things that are terms that are shortened. Filthy rich becomes filch. Um, so getting used to that terminology, and the way things are sort of shortened, it takes a little bit to get through. But he's got a lot on his plate here, and has to figure out, okay, I have to do this, but I can't. I have to watch because there's privacy laws I can't violate. So there's certain things that I can't look into. So it's basically looking for anything, anywhere, really, that he can find. Um, the next character is Parsfall, who is basically a background guy at a news network. Um, and he gets these links from his boss, and it's basically like a conversation without having like the hollow in front of you. Like if you're on a phone, the hollow image, or if you're on a phone, it's more like, I guess, right in your ear. And he's constantly getting these things that you need to look into this. You need to look into this. The Russians, who now in this book he calls the Russies. They attack a Martian vessel, and with old terroristic weapons, with old communist weapons, and Mars is threatening to retaliate. So he has to look into this. He has to look into statistics of you know the suicides and the different murders, and it seems like he's got like 5 different stories that he needs to be focused on at one time. Um, he has probably the shorter part of the book, though. I think it's going to be longer in the second part because of the way the book ends. I won't go there, at least not yet, but that's he's the third of the characters. The fourth character is Cannon, who is a senator in Noram, and a pretty powerful senator. He's on a committee, and it's basically like a lot of budgetary and economic kind of stuff, and he heads it up. So he's a pretty important guy. Um, and he's looking to take down the fifth character, who is going to be giving his opponent a lot of money, a lot of credits, is what they call it. But Cannon basically explains politics and politicians, and how you succeed and how you don't succeed in politics. Much the way the fifth character, Kamal, explains business. He's a multi-millionaire businessman, who could be on the straight and narrow, but really isn't. And some of the things that Chiang has to investigate come from Kamal, or they are linked to him. Proving it is the hard part, though. There, but Kamal even gives how you make it in business, and how you don't, and family is important, and this and that. Where does beauty come in all this? Well, they all have their notion of beauty. Cornette obviously sees the beauty in the old music, the art music, the classical music, and at a soiree that she does some of that music for. She is getting ready to eat, and there's a kid that's walking out and said, that music should have been buried with the composer. Pretty harsh. But she stands up to Canon about music and the beauty of music, not the rest crap, but the old stuff. That's part of our heritage. That's part of who we are. And she so impresses Canon that he actually pushes through legislation that would help fund a pilot program where she's at University of Denver for music, the classical stuff, and it's put through where she's basically going to be the one heading it up, because programs are getting slashed, and she's basically on the verge of like finding her way out. It's almost like the dean of the arts and sciences he's trying to find a way to get rid of her. And when this goes through, obviously he can't. She has to head up the program. It's like a 2 million credit grant, which is like more than what like the university gets in grants. And it's supposed to be very hands-on, which is what she wants courses to be, not just done like virtual, like we do now, even where you don't have to come, but you have to come and actually experience what it all is. Um, the interesting thing in this is how Modesitt starts to interweave the five personalities, the five stories. They start to come together, and they come together in different ways. Um, and it takes a little while for it to get there. It's a slower moving book. Um, so if you're looking for something that hits the ground running and going super fast right away, this probably won't do it for you. But if you have some time to get through all the setup and get to know the characters, their stories, then chances are you're going to be able to get through it. Um, the characters are interesting. They're not characters that you would be like, oh, I don't, I even Kamal, who is the guy that's not on the straight and narrow, you can kind of agree with him on certain points. With the senator, I mean, even if you don't like politicians, there are certain things that you can agree with him on too. You can sympathize with other characters. Um, Cornette, who's going through the financial crunch. Um, she reminds me a lot of Anna from his series, the Spell Song cycle. I could almost see her like going back to that world, and being the sorceress. Um, and he may have used her partly on. He may have based her on Anna. I don't know, but it's possible. Um, the book overall, I think it's good. So far, I've given all of his stuff 5 stars. This one falls just short because probably of the fact that it's 359 pages and it probably didn't have to be. It probably could have been a little bit shorter. It takes a little while to get used to the new terminology, the different names for states and for continents. Um, you know, it's different, and it takes a little while to get used to. Um, so I gave it 4.5. Um, I thought it was a good book. I'm looking forward to book two, which is just called Flash, and that's going to be the next one up for me. Um, but so far, I mean, everything that I've read by this guy, I'm really liking. Um, Sci-fi, fantasy-wise, right now I'm putting him as my second favorite author behind Tolkien. Nobody's ever going to pass Tolkien, in my opinion. That's my opinion. If you disagree with me, you know, go ahead and say so down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But Tolkien, to me, I think established much of what we see in fantasy now. Um, Not so much sci-fi, obviously, because he was more of the fantasy side. But with looking at Modesitt, obviously he delves in both sides, the fantasy and the sci-fi. This is considered more sci-fi than fantasy. But yeah, I mean, I've basically liked every book that I've read by him so far. And like I said, I would put him at number 2 in all time authors for me for that genre, because Dylan Thomas is my favorite poet. So I kind of have things sort of divided up. If I had to do a top 10 list of authors, I'd don't know how that would go. Though it's something I might try. If it's something that you'd like to see, leave a comment down below. And if enough of you want to see it, then it's something that I'll do, and they have to like really think hard about. It's going to be hard to differentiate between sort of like the classics and you know fantasy and sci-fi and poetry and philosophy and the academic stuff, because I'm all over the place. I read a whole lot of different stuff. But yeah, I would say for this one again, 4.5 stars. I liked it. I like the way that the book ends actually, because it takes the least. It seems to be the least focused on character, Parsfall, and he falls for Cornet. Basically, every guy that sees Cornet, there's like a beauty there. And they all have, again, beauty seems to be like an overarching theme here, which is kind of what the book obviously is called, Archform Beauty. But in the end, he's the one that has the guts to buy her flowers and give her a card and bring it to her. And the way it ends is she's like, hey, I got some ads to do, resonance ads. She does that to survive. And she's like, maybe we can like go out and get something to eat or something after. And he's like, yeah, cool, let's do it. And that's the way the book ends. So it'll be interesting to see how much Parsifal is in book 2. And I mean, Kamal, basically, I can't see him in there unless somehow he survived an attack. He's supposed to die by the end. So we'll see on that. So yeah, 4.5 stars. I would recommend it. I liked it. So yeah, with that, again, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos coming out. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. And like I said, I always respond. And spread the word. It's like I said, it's free for you, and I appreciate it immensely. So with that, as always, until next time, keep YouTube literate, and God bless.